Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a long, critical look at someone you probably know best from behind the Weekend Update desk at Saturday Night Live.
Right.
But there's way more to him than just that. We're diving deep into Colin Kelly. Just American comedian, yes, but also a really accomplished writer, actor, screenwriter, born June 29th, 1982.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If you just see him as, the straight man next to Michael Che, you're missing the whole engine behind it, the intellectual side that's driven one of the, frankly, most durable careers in satire today.
Absolutely.
That's exactly right. I mean, focusing just on those few minutes, swapping jokes each week, you completely miss the academic power, the administrative skill that really built his whole career path.
Okay.
Our sources today, they give a really full picture. And honestly, kind of a surprising one. We're going to track him from a pretty serious academic start, not where you usually expect comedy writers to come from.
No, not at all.
Right. Through getting hired as a staff writer back in 2005, his times as head writer multiple times, actually, and then finally him becoming the longest-serving Weekend Update anchor ever, he broke the record.
So our mission here in this deep dive is really to map out that foundation. How does a guy who studied, dense Russian literature at Harvard end up being this sort of dominant, dry voice in late-night political humor? We'll look at how he used that sharp writing skill to get into movies, write a best-selling memoir, land these big hosting gigs.
Including that new Pop Culture Jeopardy thing.
Exactly. That was just announced, hosting for Amazon Prime Video. So yeah, we're looking past the punchlines, really trying to dissect how he built this success.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Starting right at the beginning, with those foundations, his roots, his academic background. He was born in New York City, June 29, 1982, raised Catholic, grew up in Grimes Hill, Staten Island.
Staten Island. That geography feels important, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It kind of explains that grounded, maybe slightly outsider view you get from a lot of Staten Island comics.
It really does. And the family background is pretty telling, too.
Right.
It points to this environment of, high-pressure public service kind of jobs.
Right. His mother, Carrie J. Kelly, she was the chief medical officer for the New York City Fire Department.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, think about that role. The composure needed, the huge decisions, especially after 9/11.
Intense.
And his dad, Daniel A. Jost, taught at Staten Island Technical High School. So you see this mix, his mom's precision, his dad's focus on communication. It almost feels like it feeds into his, meticulous comedy style later on.
It really does build this kind of stable professional structure, doesn't it? And that professional bent, it seems like it runs in the family. His younger brother, Casey Jost.
Oh, yeah.
He's deep in the comedy world, too. Writer and producer for Impractical Jokers.
Okay.
And there's a cool overlap. Casey was also in that movie, Staten Island Summer, the one Colin wrote back in 2015.
Huh. So the creative thing is definitely a family affair. And you see that discipline right away in his education. It's seriously elite. He went to Regis High School in Manhattan, known for being tough, academically graduated in 2000. And get this, he was already editing the school paper there at the Owl. So even then, he's practicing, editorial judgment, leading a team.
But here's where it gets really differentiating, the Harvard path. That's what sets him apart. He studies history and literature there, graduates 2004, cum laude.
Right.
And he wasn't just dabbling. He specialized in Russian lit and British lit. And the really crucial part, his senior thesis was on Vladimir Nabokov.
Okay, that Nabokov detail. That feels like the key to this whole thing, doesn't it? Nabokov, Lolita, famous for incredibly complex language, structural tricks, unreliable narrators, just layers of wordplay.
Exactly. Dazzling stuff.
So if you spend years dissecting that level of precision, that structural irony, you're basically training yourself to be the ultimate comedy writer.
Yeah.
It's intellectual boot camp for satire.
You absolutely nailed it. Nabokov demands that kind of analytical sharpness. And while he's doing that, he's also the president of the Harvard Lampoon.
The legendary Lampoon.
Right. Think about that combo. High-level literary deconstruction here and over here, churning out topical, often silly humor for the Lampoon. It's the perfect storm of highbrow theory and, immediate practical comedy training.
Which makes the next bit, the scramble phase after college, almost more relatable. You come out of Harvard, the Nabokov thesis, Lampoon presidency.
Right.
And then reality hits.
Right.
He worked for a bit as a reporter and copy editor for the Staten Island Advance. Back home.
Yeah, talk about humbling. From analyzing complex Russian novels to writing for a Nickelodeon cartoon, he worked on a short-lived show called Kappa Mikey.
Kappa Mikey.
It shows, you take the writing gigs you can get to pay the bills, build up those credits.
But that groundwork, that training, it must have paid off fast.
Uh-huh.
Because the big pivot was sending a writing packet to SNL. That rigor, that precision, it must have jumped off the page. He got hired as a staff writer in 2005. That's incredibly quick. Graduates College 04, writing for SNL by 05.
It really is. And we can't skip that that very human pre-fame moment. Remember, he was on Weakest Link, the college edition back in 2002.
Oh, we forgot about that.
Yeah. He won like $5,250, decent for a college kid. But he said later he didn't really feel like he deserved the win.
What does that say? Maybe something about his own internal gauge for achievement, like real accomplishment versus just luck.
Could be. It sort of fits with that controlled, measured persona we see later, right?
Yeah, maybe. Okay, let's shift gears then into the SNL world. That's where he really becomes, a defining figure in modern late night. Starts as a staff writer, 2005. And you got to remember, SNL is just this relentless machine, 90 minutes live every single week.
Totally relentless. And watching his climb through the writing ranks there, it really speaks volumes about his work ethic, his output, and honestly, his administrative skills.
The titles tell the story, right?
Exactly. Staff writer, you submit jokes, sketches, then writing supervisor, which he was from 2009 to 2012. That's more like an editor, a gatekeeper. You're shaping sketches, managing younger writers.
That takes more than just being funny. You need structure, timing skills. He probably sharpened studying literature.
No doubt. Then he gets bumped up to co-head writer, 2012 to 2015. Now, for anyone listening who doesn't know the SNL hierarchy, head writer, co-head writer, that's like being the show's general manager, it's a political compass almost.
Right, setting the tone, overseeing everything, managing the whole writer's room, plus dealing with pressure from the network, from Lorne Michaels.
Huge administrative weight. He actually stepped back from it for a bit, but they clearly relied on him. He came back as co-head writer, this time with Michael Che, his eventual update partner.
Okay.
And that was from 2017 right up until 2022. Just think about that period. He was steering the ship, comedically speaking, for the most relevant hour of political comedy on TV.
Right through the Trump years.
Exactly. The super volatile Trump presidency, the start of the Biden years, that takes incredible political awareness and, frankly, a knack for neutrality.
And you mentioned his collaboration with Rob Klein, another writer. They work together a lot.
Yeah.
When you see that kind of long-term partnership in a place like SNL,
Yeah.
it's just real trust, Finding someone who gets your wavelength in that pressure cooker, that's gold.
Absolutely priceless. But the big shift, the one the audience really saw, was the move to Weekend Update.
Right.
Summer break after the 2012-13 season, Lorne Michaels taps him, asks him to take over the desk, replacing Seth Meyers, who was leaving for his own show.
Wow. That's the moment he goes from the back room to center stage.
Totally. It was a huge show of faith.
Wow.
And he took it, debuted March 1st, 2014, initially with Cecily Strong, but then pretty quickly settled into that long-running partnership with Michael Che.
And that Chi partnership became so iconic, didn't it? Because of that sharp contrast, that intellectual back and forth between them.
It really did. And that contrast, that chemistry, it led straight to the record books. October 23, 2021, that's when Just officially broke Seth Meyers' record. Longest-serving anchor in Update history.
Think about anchoring that desk through 8 years. Latter Obama years, all of Trump,
Yeah.
Start of Biden. That's just monumental endurance,
Yeah.
comedically and politically.
For sure. And he managed that longevity, I think, by keeping that delivery really dry, objective, almost like a journalist sometimes. It provided the stable anchor point against Chess, more pointed, challenging style.
It makes you wonder about his influences.
Yeah.
He's mentioned Norm Macdonald as a big one for his update work. Said Norm's tone was the one he grew up with. Also mentioned Tina Fey.
Mm-hmm.
Is it weird that he cites Norm Macdonald? Because Norm was much darker, riskier, kind of surreal sometimes. Just seems so much more controlled.
That's a really good question. I don't think it's contradictory, actually. I think it's maybe a blend. Tina Fey brings the super sharp political writing, the joke efficiency, that's the Harvard precision, maybe.
Okay.
But Norm Macdonald, he provides that model for the detached deadpan delivery.
Yeah.
That willingness to just let the absurdity of the news hang there, which you need when the headlines themselves are so polarized.
Ah, okay. So Jost takes Norm's tone but applies Tina Fey's focus.
That's how I see it, yeah. That makes sense.
Gotcha. And while he was mostly writing and anchoring, he did do some character stuff too, right? Brief cameos, like playing Ohio Governor John Kasich in a debate sketch.
Oh, yeah. And the super meta one playing his actual friend and Harvard dorm mate, Pete Buttigieg, during the 2020 primaries.
Right. That works on so many levels. The comedian playing his real-life buddy who's now running for president.
Exactly. And he did NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, too, during the 2021 season. So yeah, even with all the writing and anchoring, he could still jump in, play a part, understood the ensemble thing.
Okay, so we've got the definitive SNL chapter covered. But Jost has been really smart about building his brand way beyond that building, beyond Studio 8H. Let's talk about his other work, starting with stand-up. That's a whole different beast.
It really is. And trying to keep a stand-up career going while you're also head writing and anchoring SNL, that's an insane juggling act.
Seriously.
But he did it. He performed on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, TBS, HBO. And that's important, right? It shows his jokes work outside the update desk format, without cue cards, in front of a live crowd expecting laughs now.
And he got that early industry nod, too. He was picked as a new face at the Montreal Just for Laughs Festival in 2009.
Huge deal for a comic.
Yeah, and he kept doing Montreal, did the Chicago Festival, too, for a few years after that. So that suggests he was building a real independent voice as a performer, separate from just being an SNL writer.
Definitely. And then moving off the stage, his writing the literary stuff that's really core to his whole intellectual brand. He's published 4 Shouts and Murmurs pieces in The New Yorker.
Which, for people who don't know, Shouts and Murmurs is like the gold standard for short, smart literary humor. Getting published there is a big marker of sophistication in comedy.
Absolutely. Pieces like Explaining Your Time Warner Bill or I Will Slap You. It shows that high-level wit.
And publishing in The New Yorker, New York Times Magazine, Huffington Post, even back at the Staten Island Advance, it shows he can adapt his satirical voice for different places, different kinds of readers.
Very versatile. And then, of course, the big one for a lot of people was his memoir, A Very Punchable Face, came out July 2020.
Right. That did really well.
It did. It seemed like people responded to the vulnerability, the self-deprecation maybe. It let people connect with him personally beyond the SNL persona. And hitting the New York Times bestseller list, that cemented him as a marketable author, not just, an SNL guy.
Okay, let's talk hosting gigs, because this seems like a clear strategy, positioning him as more of a mainstream media figure now. Co-hosting the Emmys with Michael Che back in 2018.
High profile, high pressure.
Yeah.
You've got to appeal broadly, keep the show moving. It's an administrative task as much as a comedy one.
And then the ultimate tightrope act, hosting the White House Correspondents' Dinner, April 2024.
Oof.
Yeah, that's the job where you have to race the most powerful people in the room, including the president, right to their faces.
While also kind of celebrating unity in the free press. It's a crazy balancing act.
Totally.
His monologue there, it's interesting. About 20 minutes, he roasted Trump. He roasted Biden, kept that expected impartiality. But he did throw in a line supporting Biden's decency.
Which is a calculated move in that room, right?
Yeah. A bit of a risk. He also joked about being married to Scarlett Johansson, did the requisite joke celebrating the press.
That performance, I think it really cemented him as the kind of satirist the establishment is comfortable with. Sharp, but professional, palatable. It's an endorsement of that controlled intellectual style he has.
And looking ahead, that announcement, July 31st, 2024, he's hosting Pop Culture Jeopardy on Amazon Prime Video. That feels like the clearest signal yet of him diversifying.
It really does. I want to pause on that. Hosting Pop Culture Jeopardy. Is that just smart brand extension? Or is it maybe a step away from the political stuff that made him famous? It feels like a big move towards being a mainstream host, playing to a much wider audience that isn't necessarily tuning in for political takes.
I think it looks very strategic. It leverages the persona he's already built, smart, quick, composed, but puts it in a safe, non-political format that could run for a long time. It's a high-profile pivot that really cashes in on the celebrity status he built at SNL. Very savvy.
Okay. If we're talking unexpected moves, though, we absolutely have to talk about the weirder stuff. Film work and, yes, professional wrestling.
Right. Okay, film first. He wrote the screenplay for Staten Island Summer back in 2015 and had a small part in it, too. Played Officer Greg Callahan. He was also in How to Be Single in 2016. Minor role.
And he's kept acting a bit, sometimes mixing it with his personal life, like having a cameo in Fly Me to the Moon last year, which starred his wife, Scarlett Johansson.
Right. Supportive husband move. And he's got a voice role coming up, Mr. Moon and the Bad Guys, too. So he's definitely building out a little acting and screenwriting sideline.
But the story that just screams deep dive absurdity has got to be the WWE thing. March 2019, Colin Jost and Michael Che show up on WWE's Monday Night Raw as special correspondents for WrestleMania 35.
Oh, my God, yes.
What were arguably the two leading political satirists in America doing anywhere near a wrestling ring.
What's amazing is how fully they committed to the bit. They didn't just observe from the sidelines. No, they got pulled into a whole storyline with Braun Strowman, this absolute monster of a wrestler.
Okay.
And it ended with both of them, Jost and Che, being surprise entrants in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania itself.
They're kidding. They were in the match.
They were, and the sources say their brilliant strategy was to hide under the ring for most of it.
Classic comedy survival move. Avoid the giants.
Totally. But eventually they had to come out, and they made this one doomed attempt to try and eliminate Strowman together. And here's the perfect Jost moment. He tries to reason with Strowman by bringing up his therapist.
No. He tried to use therapy talk on Braun Strowman.
He did. It's the absolute peak Jost persona, applying that sort of Harvard-educated analytical approach to a guy who throws people for a living.
How did that go over?
About how you'd expect. Strowman immediately chokeslammed him, then tossed both Jost and Che out of the ring like nothing. End of story.
Oh, man. Proof that dry wit doesn't stop at chokeslam.
Apparently not. But it was just this perfect, bizarre, unforgettable clash of worlds. Weekend Update meets WWE. Hilarious.
Okay, let's shift to his personal life a bit. There's some really interesting connections that actually loop back to that intellectual start we talked about. Like the fact that Jost and Pete Buttigieg, former Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, weren't just at Harvard together.
They were dorm mates.
Dorm mates. In Leverett House. That's wild.
Isn't it? Sharing a dorm at the start of their careers. And clearly, they stayed connected. Just donated to Buttigieg's mayoral campaign back in 2015.
And then, like we said, he ends up playing Buttigieg on SNL during the primaries.
Yeah. It just highlights that small, interwoven world of the American elite, connecting politics and comedy.
His biggest personal connection, obviously, is his marriage to Scarlett Johansson. Met when she was hosting SNL, which happens a lot there.
The classic SNL romance story.
Right. Started dating May 2017, engaged May 2019, got married pretty quietly October 2020 at home in New York. And they had their son in August 2021.
And that relationship undeniably boosted his profile massively. Took him from being mainly known by comedy fans to being a globally recognized celebrity figure.
And then there's the project that's just pure, quirky Staten Island love. The ferry boat.
Oh, yes, the ferry. In 2023, Justin Pete Davidson, another Staten Island SNL guy, they bought a decommissioned Staten Island ferry, the MV John F. Kennedy.
What are they even doing with it?
Well, it's partly just this giant, amazing inside joke, right? But it's also kind of an investment. The sources mention it was actually used in a movie last year called Screamboat.
Screamboat, okay.
So it grounds them back in their roots, gives them this very tangible, very weird piece of local New York history. It's kind of endearing.
We've talked acting, writing, but there was a more recent kind of short-lived venture into sports. He surfs, apparently.
Yeah, he's an avid surfer. Which led to this slightly odd gig in 2024. NBC Sports sent him to Tahiti to cover the surfing competition at the Summer Olympics.
A dry political comic covering surfing in Tahiti for the Olympics. Why?
I guess it speaks to how celebrity works now. Networks want familiar faces everywhere, maybe, but it raises questions about juggling all these side hustles because his time there ended abruptly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he left before the competition finished. The sources just said it was due to multiple health issues. Kind of vague.
Huh. Just a little reminder, I guess, that even super successful people have limits. Not every gig works out perfectly.
Exactly. Even for a pro.
Okay, let's wrap this deep dive up by looking at the hardware. The awards, the honors, the proof of impact. You don't get to be the longest-running update anchor without racking up some serious recognition.
Oh, absolutely. Colin Jost has been an awards magnet. 19 Emmy nominations total for his SNL work. That's across writing. The show itself is a variety series. And now even hosting, he got nominated for Outstanding Host for a game show in 2025 for Pop Culture Jeopardy.
19 nominations. That's just sustained excellence over decades across different roles.
It really is. And he's won, too. He's a 2-time Primetime Emmy winner. And what's cool is his recent wins in 2025 were for the SNL 50th anniversary special.
For the big anniversary show.
Yeah, one for Outstanding Writing, for a Variety Special, and for Outstanding Variety Special live. It really shows his influence spanning his whole career arc from a young writer contributing week to week to being a key figure in celebrating the show's massive history.
And beyond the Emmys, the writers themselves have recognized him consistently. Multiple Writers Guild of America awards.
Yep. WGA wins for Comedy Variety Sketch Series in 2007, 2009, 2010, 2017, 2018. Those WGA awards are huge. They mean the people actually doing the writing respect your craft. That's validation from your peers.
And then bringing it right back home, full circle to Staten Island and academia. He got an honorary Doctor of Humane Letters from the College of Staten Island, CUNY, in 2025.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, recognizing his work in comedy, TV, and community service. It's a nice way to tie his celebrity status back to his local roots and civic contribution.
It really is a remarkable story, blending that high-level intellectual start with huge success in mainstream entertainment.
So if you step back and look at Colin Jost's whole journey, it's pretty amazing. From that super intellectual background, writing about Nabokov at Harvard, to becoming this incredibly steady, dominant figure in modern comedy, holding that Weekend Update record.
Yeah, the key takeaway for me is really about the power of applying intellectual rigor to mass media. Just took that deep academic training history, literature, structure, and used it to become this really effective satirist of American culture, politics, everything. He managed to take the kind of precision needed for Nabokov
Right.
and make it work on the biggest, most accessible comedy stage there is.
Right.
Building that bridge, making smart humor work in a broad format. That's his real genius, I think.
So we've seen his success in writing, acting, hosting these big events. The memoir did well. Now he's got Pop Culture Jeopardy lined up, which feels like a long-term play. Given all that, where does his legacy ultimately lie? Is that Weekend Update record the thing that defines him, the ultimate comedy writer and satirist?
Yeah.
Or is that just the launching pad to becoming more of a pure media personality, a mogul even?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah. You have to wonder, how does that shift reflect where comedy celebrity is going right now? Does the smart political satirist eventually have to soften the edges, move away from the controversy to achieve that broader, maybe less volatile mainstream success? Something for you to think about as we see what he does next.